I am Jessica, and we are here with Brad, who is the founder of Jacob's Audible, a nonprofit organization for children and families of those that are facing autism. Can you tell us? We will actually be going over his organization, and we will be touching on the cases of Sebastian Rogers and Joe Clyde Daniels as well. Can you tell us a little bit about Jacob's Audible?
Of course. First of all, thank you for having me. Thank you. It's an honor, and I'm humbled to be here with missing people in America. Uh, Jacob's Audible. It started when my son was diagnosed almost 4 years ago now. And what we do is we help parents navigate the world of autism. We learn through our experiences that if the parents aren't well, then the kiddos can't be well. Uh, Not that our efforts don't go towards kiddos, because of course they do, but we like to make the parents feel almost like empowered that this situation is not the end. It's not as bad as you think it's going to be. Like that was my first thoughts, was a darkness, like my
Scary.
life's over, his life's over type of thing. And that's why we gear toward parents, because we want parents to be healthy. We want parents to have a clear mind. Just because it doesn't look like what you thought it looked like doesn't mean it's not going to be great. Not that it's going to, this is what God gave you. This is the child that, I never look at Jacob as an autistic kid. I
Mhm.
look at Jacob as Jacob. And but our organization does that through respite, does it through recognition, does it through resources. So we handle and yield phone calls, emails, and we help parents with just different types of things like how to handle insurance, where are the grants, is there any money that we can get for caring for our child, how do we get respite? Respite is where the parents can actually take a break. There's tons of things out there that maybe you might not know, because when you get diagnosed with autism, and I share this story all the time, they hand you a packet and they say, "Hey, your son's autistic, your daughter's autistic. Here's the first 100 days of autism." And I remember asking the doctor, I go, "What about day 101?"
Mhm.
Right? What happens after those first 100 days? And you're kind of on your own. You're on an island. It's very isolating for parents. And I think that's where my healing came when I started Jacob's Audible. I went into the deep isolation and I was embarrassed. I was mad at God. I just didn't know what to do. And I want us to be that resource. Brad, Jamie, what do I do? Well, you get in touch with Jacob's Audible, it's jacobsaudible.org, and you sign up for our newsletter, you send us a personal email, and what we do is we sit down with a personal phone call, personal email, Zoom call, and we connect with you and we listen to your unique situation because they're all unique, and we help you navigate it. We our goal is to build a community within a community because we know your story and we know what you're going through. And there's nothing, we're not made to do this world alone. And when we first got diagnosed with Jacob, that's what I felt. I felt like I had to climb every mountain. I felt like I had to hide it. I was embarrassed, uh, but I overcame all those things. But I did it by helping others, and that's the magic in it, right? That's
Absolutely.
and I tell people all the time, your child. I thought I thought God took Jacob from me, but he actually gave him to me
Yeah.
because he was going to use me in a different way to help thousands of other people, while Jacob just lights up the world. And and that's what we're all about. We're a small nonprofit, but we're growing. We help people all over Nashville, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama. We'll go anywhere. If you need us, we'll help you 100%. So that's where we're at. And but this is just another extension of what we want to do. I mean, we're all in. I think we have to be
Yeah.
because we say you're an accountant and your son or daughter gets diagnosed with autism, you don't you're not qualified,
Right.
and you're not sure what to do, and there's a sense of being mixed. And to navigate insurance, what does insurance cover? What's ABA therapy? What therapies does he need? who answers these questions? There's not a lot of places that do that. So you have to do your own research, which can really get you into a lost place.
Right.
And my wife and I, well, her, she's kind of become an expert in that field, which that's 80% of the phone calls that we get is about therapies and insurance. And she's become, I mean, almost an expert on it, if not an expert. And me, I do more of the field events,
Mm-hmm.
bringing people together. That's who I am. Um, and I love that stuff. We do pictures with Santa, we do free haircuts, um, for the kiddos and the parents. Our new goal this year is to bring in people who are not affected by autism and see if we can't combine those communities because I think people want to help. I think people want to be involved. They just don't know how. Um, and that's what we want to do. This year is going to be a big push to get those things done. We have a lot of fun events coming up that are all on the website, and it's about changing your life in a way, and that's where Audible comes in. Jacob's Audible meaning to change the play on autism is, don't be afraid to change your life because we do it unconsciously, right? Throughout our days,
Yeah.
you're 20, you're 25, you're 30, you're 40, you're married, you're a different person. So this is just another one of those things that you just have to understand, but it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. It's easy
Mm-hmm.
for me to say it now because I'm 4 years in, but it's not easy. It's not easy. And I still cry. I still get mad. I still get upset.
Mm-hmm.
I look at Jacob sometimes and as big as his smile is and everything, it pains me at sometimes. And that's a real answer. It's a real answer. I get angry. I still do, but I'll tell people this and I'll end with this is imagine packing your bags because Jacob was my first child, first boy. Thought he was going to be like me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Play football, date cheerleaders, right? Do all the things that dad wants you to do. And so imagine packing your bags for Tahiti. Okay. You planned a 6 month, 9 month trip to Tahiti. Okay. You've packed your bags, you've done your research, you know where you're staying, packed all the things that you're going to need. You're going there for a month and you're like, I got all this stuff. I know where the restaurants are, I know where all the resorts are, and doing all those things. And then you get to the airport and you're like, oh, this is it. We're on our way. And then you land in Holland and you're like, what?
Wait.
Wait a minute. This is not what I signed up for. This is not what I prepared for the last 9 months. I want to, but then you get off the plane in Holland and you're like, you know what? Not that bad.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool, right? But all right, so what do we have to do? Well, we have to circumvent, right? We got to change the play. We got
Yep.
to call an audible. Okay, so let's go shopping, buy some new clothes, and learn a different language, learn about the food, and learn about what culture is here in Holland. And that's what autism did to us,
Mm-hmm.
because I was on a flight to Tahiti
Yeah.
when Jacob was born. But I'm in Holland now and I love it. And I love him and that's what drives our work.
I absolutely
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah,
Love it.
I appreciate it.
And with that work, has brought you in touch with others, other parents, I call them warriors.
Hmm.
I don't like to say that they're children with autism. They're my
They
warriors.
are warriors.
And so that brought you in contact with other parents. That is how you met Seth and learned of the Sebastian Rogers case of him disappearing.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about your relationship with Seth and what you've done for him?
Yeah, absolutely. So where it started was, and this is faith and faith, it's just what guides our lives. So my mom actually saw the case on TV and she paused it and came and got me. She's like, "Hey, you need to come look at this." And because anytime autism kiddo comes up,
Right.
she dials in. And so they come look at this, and for some reason things attract you or catch your interest more than others, right? Because there's other autistic kiddos that go missing, right? But for some reason, this case just taught me, we're like, all right, well, and it was in the beginning, right? I mean, it was 3 days out, I think it was at that point. And so I said, Mom, make sure we keep up on it. She watches the news. I don't watch a lot of TV. So she watches everything. So I said, hey, listen, if you see anything, follow up. Let's follow up on this. And I got it on my phone and things like that. And so when when things started to occur, uh, we started looking at the TBI interviews. It was at Hendersonville Police Department and Sumner, is it Sumner County? I think
Hmm.
it's Sumner County. And that's a sharpener. That's awesome. I learned it's live. It's live TV, baby. It's live TV. And so I started being intrigued by the case because with Jacob's situation, when kiddos elope, right? And that's a major characteristic in autistic kiddos. So when they elope, there's a certain pattern to it, and I can't speak for all kids because I
Right.
had a great adult who's autistic that I'm great friends with, and we sat down, had coffee one day, and he educated me so much on his path, right? But the one thing he told me was, if you met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. Everybody's unique. Everybody. Now, similar characteristics, of course. So with this case, um, when I first started to look at it, and I'm a closet like detective life guy, I'm very non-conform. I'm really out of the box kind of thinker. I kept looking at it, and something about it didn't seem right. It wasn't a typical case where, especially after the searches, right? I'm like, all right, this kid's going to be close by. They're going to pick him up. Unfortunately, these kiddos are drawn to water. You know, it's unfortunate we see it happen all the time. So it's like, okay, they're going to find this kiddo 3 or 4 days once they, in search and they, there was nothing. So I was like, it just, it, it bothered me. And so I met Seth um, at an event, one of the first events I went to, and we kind of connected. But at that point, he's very standoffish. Yeah, because this case went to national news. It became a show,
Yeah.
right? I mean, some tomfoolery, for lack of words. And the media, the YouTubers, it got national attention, which I think was great, because sometimes even, bad press is good press, right? With this kind of stuff, 'cause you never know who's going to see it. You never know who's going to, oh, wait a minute, I know that. And we, so when I first met him, um, it was the biggest embrace. It was a vigil, and we did it in Hendersonville at Sebastian's school. And I showed up, and it was the biggest embrace because we had connected through you know text messaging and calling. He's not on social media. He has like 3 phone numbers for obvious reasons, and because he's been unfairly treated through this whole thing, which I'm not going to get heavily into because I could talk for hours. But biggest embrace of two fathers, and I just told him. We talked briefly for about 5 minutes, and I just told him, I said, I can't imagine how you feel, and I'm not going to say I do. And I lost Jacob once for about 7 minutes in our neighborhood. Lost him again for another 30 seconds. And I'm gonna tell you, it was the worst. It was, you could feel yourself dying a little bit every second that went by. But what would what would I do if Jacob just walked away and I didn't have him? But he embraced me, and I said, listen, we're gonna do this together. We're gonna move forward together. I know what you're going through. I keep up with, all the tomfoolery is the only word it's the nicest word I can use.
Hmm?
And what you're going through because, it became such a racket almost that a lot of people were using the case to get attention, right? But there were some good people in there. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of great people that are involved in this case that really care and really want to, we our ultimate goal is to have Sebastian
Right.
found. Um, but I mean, so his life, I mean, death threats. Weren't allowed to have any events anywhere. Some of the events that we held got raided by people who didn't want him to have events. I mean, some very, very harsh things that still baffle me a little bit because I'm like, all right, well, we're holding a vigil to bring people together to help keep, his fire lit and our fire lit to help continue the search and hopefully find Sebastian. And that didn't sit well with a lot of people. And I think that's what motivated me more is that other humans were trying to block and and not allow that to happen. And so when that happens, it motivates me even more.
Lights your fire.
Yeah. And then so after that event, we he started inviting me to speak at other vigils, which we did. We had one that we had to kind of cut short because it was invaded by um, some other people that didn't want us to gather, and police got involved, and but we did have another one here recently that I spoke at, and hopefully we'll have one again soon. But no, we text back and forth. We talk on the phone. He calls me and he asked me, personally when he wants me to come speak. And but he's a great man. He's a great dad. I could you could feel the suffering when he speaks. You can feel the suffering when you see him in person. Um, and I just don't understand sometimes where you don't get the answers or the cooperation from other people uh, that you should.
Mhm.
And the way he stayed as strong as he has, um, I'm a big strong guy too, but I don't know. I think I would have already been to the fire
Mhm.
personally. So I commend him on that because he has stayed calm. He has kind of riding out the storm of what's happened, but I still think he wants answers. I think we all want answers,
Yep.
right? And we want Sebastian found. And it's just I don't like I don't like the case. I think that we'll get into Baby Joe. I think there's going to be a lot of similarities in those cases, uh, and I think that's where the autism comes in. So
Right.
yeah,
Um, with Seth being trying to stay neutral, trying to keep the focus on Sebastian, as well as us and you and everything like that. Not all parents of warriors are as loving and kind and understanding and want the education. And that kind of brings us to Baby Joe and the way that that case was handled or started, I guess, with him going missing. Um, how do you feel that being the parent of a warrior can affect you in a negative way to where you might not be able to handle it as far as Joe Clyde would
yeah,
have handled
yeah.
it?
And it's a great question, and it's something that our organization looks at because, like I said, we do see a lot of abandonment. We do see a lot of parents that give up, for lack of better words. They give the kids go to relatives or the kid goes to grandparents. So we see a lot of that. We see a lot of divorce. The parents split up. Unfortunately, a lot of dads jump. That's what I call it. They jump because I think it's hard. I think it was hard for me because it was my first son. Um, and I felt that. I really did. I really felt like, I mean, just turmoil. I mean, just absolute. I mean, I was moved,
Mm-hmm.
and but to come together, get myself together with the strength of my wife, my mom, my family, and that's the other reason why we started the organization is because to go back to your point about not being able to handle it, like we had a village to help us
Mm-hmm.
with Jacob, and a lot of people don't have that. And that's kind of where our aim is with Jacob's Audible, is parents, single dads, single moms, um, that have to, go forward and care for. And once again, I mean, you could have a level one
Mhm.
autistic child, you have a level three. There's different severities, and the extreme severities are, I mean, the word severe really doesn't do it justice. It doesn't. And to be a single mom or single dad and have that responsibility. I have a great friend who he has no social life. Can't find anyone to his wife left. She moved and left him, and he has no social life. He can't find anybody to watch the kiddo because he's that severe. Hits, bites, damages there. He has no TVs in the house, no mirrors in the house. That's a different side that a lot of people don't see. And but when it comes to getting angry or getting to the point where you could go off the cliff, uh, Jacob, and I'm going to open up to you about Jacob. So Jacob's 6. Jacob's, level 1, partially verbal now. He was nonverbal, partially verbal. We got him in all the great therapies. I mean, we're throwing the book at him as far as every opportunity that we can come across to allow him to grow and ultimately, hopefully, you know, just be Jacob, right? In his full capacity. And what we think is in there, and we know it's in there. And but there's times when I mean, he overwhelms me, and it's just like it's back to back, you know, knocking stuff over, spilling stuff. As soon as you turn around, he's done something else. He puts something in the toilet and flushes it. Opens up the washing machine, throws something in it, you know, uh, and it just, Saturdays are the worst because we have a 3-year-old also, and he's all boy, he's feral,
Mhm.
and them two combined, and Jacob just, I mean, he kept spilling his milk, and I looked right at him, and this is recent. I looked right at him and I said, Jacob, do not spill it. He looked at me and he
Mhm.
drops it and runs and laughs. And it's like, so, but we've always kept him, and it's hard because you're like, is he being 6 or is that part of his
Mhm.
characteristics? And a lot of time I think he's just being 6, right? But we've always disciplined him very typically, but it's hard sometimes to make that choice and make that judgment on whether it's his characteristics or if he's just being 5 or
Right.
4, right? Because that's what kids do. But it's very frustrating because it's hard to discipline him because I have the fear that he really doesn't understand. Um, is it, if you put him in his room and take the iPad away or whatever, and is that really what he needed at that moment, right? That he gets super upset and you got to go back in and you got to hold him and things like that, and that's where a lot of those questions come to mind. I'm like, did you react correctly?
Mhm.
Is that the way? Is that the way to discipline Jacob? But I don't know that yet. He can't tell me that yet,
Mhm.
right? So as a parent, it's a battle. But I mean, there's times where you're like, I'm done,
Mhm.
and but we're in a well, 3 family home. My mom actually is his caretaker. So, and we still struggle. So when you see cases like Baby Joe and even Sebastian's case, I think sometimes, unfortunately, I think there's a limit, and I think that some people mentally, you know, get to a point where they just can't handle it, which is very unfortunate. Now, to take a child's life that's on a different level,
Mhm.
right? I think that's something that's far beyond what I can take in. Uh, but the frustration and the sense of like I'm done. How do I get out of this situation?
Mhm.
How can I end this situation? Because I can't take it anymore. Because your life has changed.
Yep.
There is no, there's certain places you can't go. There's certain things you can't do. There's all these different things that you used to do, right? That you don't do anymore. And some people just aren't good with that. They're not settled in it. And I think in his case, which, I just read yesterday that, you know, he's trying to get a new trial and they denied him.
They denied.
They denied him. Amen.
Yes.
And he's got one more appeal to the Supreme Court, and I guess they've only allowed one in like 40 something years or something like that. So he's where he belongs. But our organization would love for people to come to us before it gets to that, right?
Absolutely.
Uh, those, like I said, but that's on a different plane, which makes these two stories very upsetting, is because I believe they're very similar in the fact that in Sebastian's case, where I don't know all the details, right? But the details I do know, and what I think is very, very credible. I think you have a situation of a step parent who maybe sees the child as a nuisance, or you know getting in his way of sorts. And I think it could be a very sticky situation when it's not your son, it's
Mhm.
not your blood, it's not you know your heir, to easily try to contemplate,
Get out
how
of the
can I can
situation.
resolve this situation, right? Just like in the Baby Joe case, obviously you went to extremes, and that's like I said, it's just incredibly unfortunate, and not to seek, adoption or another parent or a grandparent or anything like that, because you have thousands of people that would have
Or just
easily
support.
stepped in.
Yeah.
Yeah, would have easily stepped or supported,
Yep.
right? And that goes back to the community of people who are not affected by autism. I really want, because people do want to help,
Mhm.
and they always ask me, they're like, "How can I help?" And I tell them, I was like, "Do you know someone that's affected by autism?" And they go, "Yeah." I said, "Call them up.
Call 'em.
Ask them, what can I do for you today?"
Mhm.
I said, "You'll be surprised the answer you get.
Mhm.
You might get a couple answers,
Right.
actually." And but I think there's some similarities there. I've looked at it, I've watched it, dug into it, and I just think there's some similarities there, unfortunately, where I think with a stepfather involved, um, there's opportunity there, just from what I know about the case, where his life and his life with the mom would be something different without that child.
Yeah.
And I have you know no problem saying that, just because I think it's the truth. I think it's the most honest thing I could say, and that's what I love about this world now. We should seek the truth and know the truth.
Mhm.
Podcast is going to be called Truth Autism. Yeah.
Yep.
But I believe that to be true. I believe that because of what I've seen, the evidence and things like that, and what I know about kiddos with autism, and just you know detective work in general. Like I said, I'm hooked on that stuff, and I don't think Sebastian walked out of that house and walked away. I don't. I truly believe that. It just doesn't add up.
Mhm.
The whole thing doesn't add up, and I truly believe someone knows where he is, or someone knows what happened.
Mhm.
Just because in Sebastian's case, level one, verbal, had a cell phone, went to high school. So it's not a 3-year-old walking out the door in the middle of the night. It's not a 5-year-old walking out the door in the middle of the night. You're talking about a teenage boy who has never eloped. And that was fact. The mom said he's never eloped. He's never done it. He's never walked out. And to have that happen in the middle of the night, and there's not a trace of him, you know, past 300 or 400 yards from the house. No
No
scent, no
nothing.
nothing. It's nothing. And there's been some great people to do a lot of work, broken down the lights, the flashlights,
Hmm.
all those different things. I don't believe in coincidences. I don't. I look at the truth and I look at the facts, and they're like, oh, the blinking lights weren't any. I'm like, the lights are blinking. 2 plus 2 is 4.
Hmm.
Don't sit here and tell me that it's nothing. It's something. And but I think somebody knows what happened. But I also bring it back to, and I look back on, the stepdad's his past, um, and the mother of his child says the same things about him, and it's the same situation. It's someone who has the capabilities of doing something that he's already done. Um, why not, or why couldn't that behavior be repeated? Uh, and it's something that I think Seth and I are really, he's got no support from Hendersonville. They closed the case or just walked away from the case. TBI hopefully is doing their due diligence, and that's what we're doing here, which I'm so glad, we're talking about it because it's coming up on a year,
Yep.
and we need to make sure because these cases will get pushed down and pushed away. And but I truly think that more needs to be done, because I mean, just everything that just led up to his disappearance, and then dad not being there, and then he's there, and then he calls the police, not her. I just and then all these other things that are, then they just disappear, right? They don't
Hmm.
talk to the media, they don't do anything. Hey, help me find. But they do these terrible, terrible interviews where there's this. She looks like she's scared to death. He just looks, as confident as he can be. Um, it's very frustrating. And I know the truth is out there, but we're going to need help to find that truth. And there's only so much Seth can do, right? Because he's been handcuffed, so to speak, in his voice, and law enforcement has not reached out to him. They don't work with him. Um, he's tried to do a lot of different things to, I think they need to reevaluate this case heavily. And I don't know why they won't, right? Because it's not going away, right? I mean, it's not going away. We're not going to let it go away. I wish I had more influence, um, to help the case get back in front of the right people, because I think there's a lot of evidence there. There's a lot of things that are there that were just kind of like,
Hmm.
and I mean, people just don't disappear,
Right.
right? They don't, and I think about the Clyde case, right? If the mom doesn't come forward, we still haven't found him,
Right.
right? But the only reason why we know the truth is because of the mom, right? Well, in this case, does Sebastian's mom know the truth? Does she?
Right.
And she's just not saying it
Hmm.
because they're very similar that way. Because we can't find baby Joe, we can't find Sebastian, and these, obviously at his age, he wasn't going anywhere, right? And with Sebastian's case, he was too old to do that. He was too old to even think about doing that. And if he did do that, somebody somewhere would have, saw
Saw
him,
something.
picked him up. No, no, nothing in it, nothing. And that doesn't settle with me. And it almost angers me. And that's where, me as a person and Jacob's Audible and everything, that's why we stand with Seth, and we're not going to stop, um, until we find him or we find out what happened. And I don't care if it takes, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. He needs to be found, or someone needs to continue to look into this thing, because I know we don't get everything
Hmm.
from law enforcement. We probably get about 10%
Yep.
of what really goes on or what really is going on. So hopefully there are some people that are still doing the work, because I think the people that are involved are right in front of us.
Hmm.
It's that simple. Um, And I hope and pray, my heart and my love goes out to Seth, but I do I do have these dreams and these thoughts sometimes that I get a call from my mom or someone, a text, and they found him, right? Um, and I get choked up a little bit because it would just be the greatest. I don't know. It would just be the greatest, one of the greatest moments that you could think of because we didn't stop fighting. We didn't stop. Um, we have to be warriors for the warriors, right? And I just hope, if someone's out there listening, or if by any grace of God, someone would come forward and say, "Hey, I know what happened.
Mhm.
Hey, I know what happened to Sebastian Rogers." Uh, I think that'd be, one of the greatest days of my life for sure.
And not only for others, but for Sebastian.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
and it also would give, the mission,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
Your mission, our mission, um, missing people in America, their mission. Anytime you get these victories in these cases, it just wants you to keep going forward.
Yeah.
It wants you to keep going, um, to find the next kiddo, to find the
Absolutely.
next, not just kiddos, people,
Mhm.
find the next person, find it, because this isn't, this is, from 2 to,
Mhm.
72, right? Um, as far as these people are, just disappearing at this, at a pretty high rate.
And I wanted to touch on that a little too. When Sebastian went missing, I don't recall them saying that he was autistic or he had autism. We do run across that often, um, and they are elopers. So, can you educate me and us about eloping with well, not even just young ones, but
Mhm.
all of them? Um, what you suggest to do if your warrior does end up eloping?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is once again part of our organization. Part of what we do is education, right? And we're what's great about it is these are all we made a playbook off our own plays, right? This is what we're learning. This is what we're going through. And Jacob's only 6,
Hmm.
so as Jacob grows, our knowledge grows, right? This is what we're doing. This is what we've done. And but if for people that maybe not know, eloping means to, in simple terms, is run away.
Take off.
Take off, right? Unexpectedly, without warning. Um, just a lot of these kiddos that elope, they just, they see an open door, they see open fence, they see anything, they're gonna take off. Jacob does it in parking lots, or did do it. Um, and I take Jacob to Costco, and I cut him loose in there now. Actually, he gets a little far out there, but he likes knocking stuff over and touching everything. But it could be very dangerous in different areas of of life.
Hmm.
Um, Parking lots, obviously anywhere there's street traffic, um, open fences, open doors. These kids are very, 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 very highly intelligent, um, and they look for opportunities to get out. And so what we've done as an organization is help parents and educate them on locks, and educate them on cameras. And because my house is like Fort Knox,
Hmm.
like, I mean, it's Pentagon type deal, because we have lost Jacob twice, and Jacob thinks it's funny. And that's the thing too. That doesn't start out as like,
There's
well,
no
I'm just,
fear.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's not. They're like, let's go see what's out here.
Hmm.
Oh, let's go see what's over there.
Hmm.
Um, and so what we've done is we've put, and I'll use my house as an example, but also, what other people know, there's other options out there. Because we started with certain things, but we've kind of like just kept adding on and adding on.
And every situation is different.
Every
Yeah.
situation is different. We have, so we have like 7. I think 7 Google cameras, 4 on the outside, 1 in his room, 2 in the backyard. And we use those cameras for uh, if Jacob ever got out, we could see what direction he went into. If Jacob got out and someone took him, I have a street camera. I have one right in front of the door, so we will know exactly who, what, when, those type of things. But that simple strategy there helps because we live in the middle of a block, so we don't know left or right. That day when he got out, I mean, we were driving both directions. So cameras are always a big help to reference. We have door chimers.
Mhm.
So every exterior entrance and exit has a door chimer. So every time you open my front door, it's you open the garage door. And that's how I got out the first time was because Dad didn't lock the garage door or left the garage door open, didn't lock the door to get to the garage, right? And that's how he got out.
Mhm.
So
Watch it.
he was, and but it was one of those things where, and that's why I felt so terrible because it was me. I left the garage door open,
Mhm.
and but we're gonna make mistakes,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
yeah, parents are you're gonna make mistakes, but what do you have in place to um, to do? To kind of I always like to be ahead of things, right? You wanna don't react, right? Do preventative maintenance.
Mhm.
We're a very reactive society. We wait for bad stuff to happen, instead of being proactive.
Right.
Um, and we were lucky with Jacob. And the second time he got out was the garage was closed, but he learned to open the door and he knew the code to the keypad. So I had to take the keypad off, okay, and I had to move it like 3 feet higher, and it's a thumbprint now. So yeah, it's those types of things.
Maneuvering the situation.
That's it. As they grow, they're going to challenge you. I mean, we don't have anything below 6 feet in our house.
Mhm.
I mean, all the great, all your great decorations or your pictures and all that, those are all gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are all
Yep.
gone. Everything's high up. And then the other thing we have throughout the inside is we have fingerprint doorknobs because we used to have the little covers, the ones you use for like the babies and stuff.
That I can't even get out of.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, you got to get in there and squeeze it. Well, he's mastered that. So
Mhm.
now bathroom doors, especially laundry room door. He loves, like I said, he loves throwing stuff in there. He shaved part of his head about a month ago. He got into my bathroom, took my razor, and went. "Yink." Yeah, didn't go over well with his grandma. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
She was out of town when it happened, so of course it was our fault. But once again, we've lost 2 toilets because he flushes whatever. I don't know. He's kind of gotten off of that for now. But these are the types of things that we try to educate parents on.
Mhm.
Now, we've some of this stuff can be pricey, but there's programs out there and there's resources out there to help you pay for these things. Here in Tennessee, we have Katie Beckett,
Mhm.
which is a federally funded grant. It's 10 grand a year, which you can use towards any item of your choice that is deemed that the child needs, right? So the locks on the doors, different types of car seat equipment, different sensory items, things of that nature. There's money out there, and what we do is we help people apply for that. It's not income based. It's just you got to go through the paperwork,
Mhm.
and that's where people won't go or they get
Don't
frustrated
know how to.
or
Yeah.
don't know how to. So we walk people through that. So when I say these things, they're like, "Well, Brad, we don't have money for all that." Well, we Jacob's Audible will help you get that money and get you these things because you need them.
Mhm.
You need them. And I tell parents with the eloping and the one person we changed her locks recently, the poor kiddo would strip down,
Mhm.
which they like to do.
Yep.
Jacob went through that phase. Yeah. And would go out the door. She lived in an apartment complex and they wanted to take the kiddo away from her because they're like, you can't have this, right? And she's like, I don't know what to do. So we went over, looked at her locks, things like that, and we changed the locks out and help protect him. One, two, keep her in the apartment, right?
Yeah.
And then lastly, you want to keep the police out of it, right? Because they started talking about social services and child protective services and things like that. And because the police officer didn't understand when she said, "Hey, he's autistic." He had no idea. Like she actually had to call the police chief and explain it to him, and he's like, "I'll educate my officer on what autism is," because to be honest, once again and transparent, when Jacob was diagnosed with autism, I had no clue. You're not in that community until you're in that community,
Absolutely.
and so I don't blame people for having a little bit of ignorance to it
Mhm.
because I was too. I was totally. I saw the movie Rain Man, and I was like, "That's autism, right?" And I'm like, "No, it's not. It's not at all. It is. It is in the movie, but it's not what it is in reality, um, because of the uniqueness of it. And but to educate, and that's the next step for us is the education part, and that's why with the new podcast, I want to basically the focus of it is going to be one, educating people on what autism is. The second thing is I'm going to bring to light the severity,
Mhm.
severe cases. Have parents come on. I mean, I encourage anybody to go on any of the autism support groups and look at the post. Look at the parents that are posting on there. Anything from "I want to kill myself, I can't do this anymore," to "How do I get rid of this child?" Um, you know, "Can somebody please help me? I'm just gonna pack up and leave." I mean, these are the posts. These are public posts that are being posted on these. I mean, autism support groups.
Mhm.
So it's an epidemic, I think, at the rate, but it's also something I think has been underserved. Now, I, I share with all parents that have kids with disabilities. I believe they'd say the same thing, right?
Mhm.
But this is obviously, my battle and where I'm at. So I just think that our next phase is to bring to light what autism really is. It's not they're just good with numbers or letters.
Yep.
Um, it's way more than that, and the impact that it has on a family. Financially, mentally, physically. I mean, some of these kiddos will bite, hit, destroy
Mhm.
your house. You got a two-parent home. One parent has to quit.
Yeah.
So if you're used to two incomes and one has to quit, what do I do? State of Tennessee doesn't pay. Some states do pay the caretaker. So, if you had to quit or I had to quit or whatever, you can get paid. In the state of Tennessee, that doesn't exist.
Right.
So you have to figure that part out. And so there's a whole other world.
Beyond.
Yeah, there's a
Mhm.
whole other world, of what autism, entails.
Mhm.
But to finish up on the eloping, I would stress the parents to be proactive. Check all your exterior doors. Make sure that, if you have a fence, make sure it's locked. We actually built a fence for a family.
Mhm.
We built a fence. They didn't have anything. The neighbors had a pool next door, and there was a small chain link fence, but they would leave their garage door open, and she could go through their garage, through a side door, and get to the pool. And so we actually built a fence to keep her, and they're very close to the street, and she would get out that way. And so, because they had a side door that you left it open, she's out.
Yep.
And so we built a fence for them. We raised the money for it, got a whole bunch of volunteers to come by, put the fence up. And as far as I know, I haven't contacted them in a while, but I drove by and it's still there. So that's good.
Good. Good.
But anything to keep them safe. And that was a unique case because she contacted us and said, "Hey, this is what's going on. This is what I need." And so we said, "Okay." So like I said, we raised the money, took some of our money, and just put it all together. I got the lumber company. They gave us the wood it cost, which if you ever bought wood lately,
Yeah.
yeah, and it was 250 square feet, so it wasn't a little fence that we put up, and but just to be proactive, think a step ahead, and when you think they won't do that, they will. But the doorknobs, the locks, the chimes, the cameras, all these things, need to be implemented into your child's safety, and that's that's what I need to encourage, is because you don't want your child to be the next child.
Right.
Because like Jacob, I mean, you take your eyes off of him for
Yep.
us. I mean, he does it. I mean, sometimes I'll go out in the driveway with him. We're raking leaves. He was right next to me. I turned around. He was two houses down.
Right.
I mean, it's so quick to happen.
Now, the first time that Jacob eloped, you mentioned something that I think is super duper important, that what you did. You had mentioned that you were on your way to go block the entrance of your neighborhood.
Yeah.
When you're in the heat of the moment, you're not going to think of something like that. So I think that is very important and a great way to stop it before it gets
Hmm.
any worse than it already is. And then as well as water.
Yeah.
We all
Absolutely.
know,
Yeah. Absolutely. Um, that's great. You remember that. Yeah. So
I
we
think
knew
it's
it.
super
Yeah.
important.
We knew it wasn't that long, right?
Hmm.
We knew it had to be in within the 3 to 4 minute mark of how long he was gone.
Hmm.
So we're about middle of the neighborhood. So what I did was my mom went right, I went right, and then I drove past Park up until the entrance. And I kind of staged there for a second, and then I parked the car, and then I just started kind of walking, you know what I mean? To see, make sure he didn't get to that. That's where the highway is.
Hmm.
So do that. And then, like I said, ultimately someone stopped him because, you can, I'm sure they could tell they're like, this kid shouldn't be by himself. He's probably like,
I mean, he was on the sidewalk.
yeah, he stayed on the sidewalk. Yeah, because we walked to the park.
Yep.
And I'm assuming that's where he was going, to the park. And but very fortunate that another parent. It's a very walkable neighborhood. There's
Hmm.
always people walking. So, but I tell everybody it's a very unique and very, I mean, we were really, really blessed that day. But not everybody lives in the neighborhood, right? I
Right.
mean, there's rural areas and there's places where, obviously water is present. We have a pool, but the pool is like over the bridge, down another. I mean, it's in the back of the subdivision,
Hmm.
so it's very far away. It's gated. It's very secure. But that's not always the case. And I try to tell people that where when we share our experiences, we're very grateful for our situation, but it's not typical. And because you have people who have ponds,
Yep.
they have lakes nearby, um,
Neighbors with
neighbors
pools.
with pools, which is a big one.
Yeah.
And understanding and educating your neighbors, right? Making sure, because sometimes it might not be you that leaves the gate open.
Hmm.
Maybe it's a neighbor's gate, right? Maybe it's something that you want your neighbors to know when they go to do something. Oh wait, Jacob's next door. Make sure I lock my door, and that's okay.
Hmm.
Everybody, our neighbors know Jacob's. The guy next door. When you ran in his house, he knows, and so everybody kind of watch out for
Create
them.
community.
But it's definitely, those kids are attracted to water. Jacob's attracted to water. I don't, I can't tell you why. It's the God-given gift, I guess. And but also the one thing that we're doing now, and I encourage this also with parents, because if a kid gets out of the neighborhood and gets lost, chances of finding him quickly are good, right? Um, but if a kid gets in a pool, you got to you got 30, 45 seconds, right? So what we encourage people to do, and we're actually getting Jacob involved now, is get them into some sort of swimming lesson, get them in the pools, give them some knowledge of water, to where if they do and are attracted and get to a point where they may end up in a pool or something like that, they'll have knowledge of keeping their head up, keeping afloat, getting to the edge, and things like that. And I think that's one of the things that, and there's programs out there for that, and that's something, once again, we encourage, because parents get frustrated because they're like, Brad, I just can't take my kid to the Y
Hmm.
because I'm embarrassed, or he's all over the place, or I can't, but you can't be discouraged by that. I mean, you have to look at it as a life-saving
Absolutely.
um, aspect to their lives. But there's programs out there. There's places um, that service uh, kids with disabilities.
Hmm.
to learn to swim and do those things, but get them in the water, get them floating, get them knowledgeable about doggy paddle, whatever it is, and help them understand how to maybe ultimately save themselves in that case. But like I said, the best thing and the advice that I can leave parents is be involved. Um, think outside the box. Be proactive. Anything that you think can happen can happen. Like we only use the back burners in our house. Locks on all the cabinets, locks on the refrigerators. I mean, the place, like I said, you go get a sandwich, take you 10 minutes, to get all the locks up because they'll go in there, medicine cabinets,
Yep.
things like that. Jacob, I think when he was 4, he got a bottle of NyQuil. It was sitting up on the counter on the bar and got left there overnight, and he went and grabbed it. He couldn't get it off. Amen to the guy who invented that, right? The childproof lock.
Yep.
But he wouldn't drink it. He wants to dump it. Like he wants to dump everything. Like he dumps everything. Uh, but to have proactive approach and just like we do, and this is the best way I can do it is, when you bring that baby home, right? You remember when they were young, 3 months, 6 months, you proactively did everything to protect that baby. You got the crib, you got the camera, right? The baby cam. You're making sure that it doesn't sleep on its, certain sides, right? You got the bassinet that's got the sides where they can't suffocate, right?
Right.
All these different proactive things that we do, car seats, right?
Carries on.
Boiling the water, cleaning the baby bottles, doing all these proactive things from those first couple of years. That's what I compare it to. You have to keep that mindset when you have a child with autism because even though they're walking, talking, things like that, they're still babies,
Yeah.
right? They need our help. You know what I mean? They need our protection. I tell the people this all the time. I don't know where it came from, but when Jacob was little, wife made fun of me because I did all these protective measures. Like I put pads everywhere because he'd fall when he was little, and I just couldn't take it, And now with the 3-year-old, no, he falls everywhere, right? But 3-year-olds, he's typical. But I think once you get to the second child, you're like, oh, well, he's good. It really didn't. It's not going to kill him. But with Jacob, I was always overly protected from him before he was diagnosed. So I don't know if that was a sign that I would need to protect him, forever. But that's what I compare it to. Go back to when your child was born in those first 6 months, 10 months, and what you did to proactively protect that child, right? And
If you didn't know, you also had
having babies, this is what they're gonna do at 3 months, 6 months, right? Typical, it doesn't really deviate. So that's where we come in. We want to make sure that if you have a unique situation, which you do, contact us. We'll get in touch with you. We do personalized phone calls. My wife talks to people at 8 o'clock at night, right? We live in the real world. We know what parents, are going through. But we also know they have lives that they have to, so we'll make accommodations for everybody to be able to, you'll be surprised with a phone. Sometimes she'll talk to moms just to talk to them. I mean, I have a dad that I talked to in Florida. He's a multimillionaire, has everything, right? He got my name from someone, reached out to me, and we did a Zoom. And his son's name is John Henry. Um, that's first and middle name, John Henry. And he's severely autistic, and he's like 9 months old a year. And they're already very, already banging his head at a year old, which is very unfortunate. And me and this gentleman get on the phone and we get on these Zooms and because he doesn't understand. He's like, Glad I've geared my life to be successful. He goes, God gave me the right woman, and but I have the ability to fix everything. Right? You can't fix this.
Yep.
And that's the hardest part. The hardest part for me was, why can't I fix it? Dads want to fix stuff, right? That's what we do. We fix things,
Right.
but you can't fix it. What you have to do is you have to change the play.
Yep.
You got to change who you are, change your outlook, change everything to help yourself understand that this is who you need to be now, and this is who your child is. And then typical kiddos need us to do that.
Absolutely.
It's not. It just looks different.
Mhm.
Typical kids need the same support.
Mhm.
It depends on what it is, right? I got cousins that are dyslexic. You got different, they need support in different areas. It's just not autism, right? So you just look at your kids. Like I said, Jacob's Jacob.
Yep.
Jacob's not autistic Jacob, or he's the autistic kid. I forget he's autistic sometimes, and because he's just Jacob.
Yep.
But I always joke around and say, if he ever walked down the hallway and was like, "Hey Dad, what's up?" Just being typical, I'd probably freak out. Like I wouldn't know what to do. I'd be like, "What happened to Jacob?" Right? But there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Mhm.
But you have to reach out for help. Um, a strong man, a strong woman, always had somebody there with them,
Right.
right? I mean, it's all kind of cliche-ish, but like, you see every strong man is a strong woman, vice versa. It's just there's no shame in asking for help.
Absolutely.
I just wish more people would help us. It's like, oh, I don't want to ask for help. No, I want all the help I can get.
Mhm.
Yeah, I want
Mhm.
everybody. If I can get everybody involved, fantastic.
Yes.
So,
Yes. So how can people get in touch with you and connect with you and follow what you're doing and your mission?
okay. So we are at jacobsaudible.org, JacobsAudible.org. If you actually hit .com, it'll still bring you to the page. I bought both domains. I was told to. I was a smart guy that did that. So if you do hit .com, you can get there. So that's the website. You can go through, see what we do, get all our event updates. We have a Sebastian Rogers page. Shows you what our future fundraisers are going to be, events that we're holding. You can donate right on the site right there. And then Facebook, Jacob's Audible. Instagram, it's Jacob's Audible. Uh, my name, Brad Michelle, will connect you to both Instagram and Facebook. We have not ventured into the TikTok world just yet, but I think we will.
Mhm.
I think from from what I've been taught, what I'm learning is to reach a bigger audience. That's the platform we need to be on.
Mhm.
Um, I'm not a big fan, I guess. I don't know. I Not that I'm not a fan. It's it's just not me. But if once again, you have to change. And if I can reach more people through
Mhm.
TikTok, then I have to make that change. 'Cause it's not about me. It's about me making a change to bring more awareness, more advocacy, more attention to what our mission is. So you can go on those two platforms, obviously the website, and then we have two incredible events coming up, if you don't mind.
No, I
So to
don't.
finish this thing up, at the end of March, we have a play shoot, okay, that we hold at the Nashville Gun Club, and we held it. This will be the second annual. Last year's it was fantastic, spectacular, and basically it's at the end of March, which is kind of like my send off for my fourth, right? This would be my fourth year walking the entire Natchez Trace Parkway from Natchez back to Nashville. I do it 15 miles a day for 30 days, all during Autism Awareness Month. And it's 444 miles. So hence the hat, hence the hat. And we use that month to obviously just bring a ton of awareness, try to make an impact. It's our biggest fundraiser of the year. We we set our budget on it to do all the programming we do for the rest of the year. But it's also just it's a ton of fun because people follow along, they join in. People come out and walk with me. this year we're actually going to do more interactive live stream, live feed where we take you off the trace. So I'm going to wake up in the morning and show you my routine, to show you what we do off the trace at night, because we go visit different organizations, we go visit different therapies. We built this family along the trace in these 3 years, going into four. So we're gonna take you with us on those trips, those dinners, and all those different things through rural Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, rural Mississippi, edge of Alabama, which I
Yep.
love. Roll
Yep.
Tide, and then up through southern Tennessee back to Nashville. It's an incredible experience. Year one was right after I started Jacob's Audible. It healed me, helped me. You spend a lot of time out there on the open highway by yourself. You start solving the world's problems, but you also start speaking to God, and you start thinking about how grateful you should be, and also how you need to give yourself grace,
Mm-hmm.
but you also understand, hey, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's going to be all right. And yeah, so that's April 1st through the 30th.
And the
D
community can join you and
Walk
walk.
with me. Yeah, we're gonna do that page again. Yeah, we're gonna do that where it's a virtual walk, so you can walk with me virtually. So you do 15 miles a day on a bike. You can do it at home.
I went to the
If
gym.
you went to the gym, yeah, you just hook your watch up to the website, and it keeps track of you. So you're walking with me, even though you're not with me.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of different things this year. We're trying to get some national attention this year. We're in year
Absolutely.
four. We've been on the news several times in all three states. Had a lot of articles written, but we really haven't grabbed that big national attention yet. I think any month-long fundraiser, walking down a driven highway,
Yeah.
should warrant that.
Yeah.
But so if anybody knows Joe Rogan, things of that nature, give them a call, be like, hey, check this guy out.
Or at least
Uh,
come walk,
yeah,
some miles with us. Let's do it.
come out and walk some miles with me, and let's see if we can't take this thing to the next level, because the more attention and the more advocacy that we put together, more eyes and ears that we can open. So,
Mm-hmm.
at last, my last ultimate goal is to get in front of Congress, even here locally
Mm-hmm.
in Tennessee and maybe nationally, and maybe change the way kids with disabilities, that structure, insurance wise, compensation wise, I think that all needs to change. I think if you have a child with disability and you're forced to stay home, you
Right.
should be compensated
Right.
um, for that caretaking. And because a lot of these kiddos go on Social Security, but it's
Yeah.
not it's not enough. It's not enough.
Nope.
It's not enough. And then sometimes when they take Social Security, it actually excludes them from other things.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big mess. So, but that's something else we can guide everyone with.
Yep.
We know a lot about that part. Everything varies from state to state. So if we go to a state or someone needs help in the state we don't know, then we research it.
Yep.
There's similarities, but there's some different. So you have to learn a different states. So some states are great.
Yep.
Some states, they don't do anything.
Right.
And that's something that we want to change on a national level, because I think that it's warranted.
Yep. Yep.
Um, you know,
Absolutely.
so we got to take care of these kiddos, but ultimately, as parents, take care of yourself, because you cannot be the best advocate for your child if you're not well. And that's what
Absolutely.
we see in these cases where these parents are not well, and bad things, terrible things can happen. We all know that.
Mm-hmm.
When, as a mental health state, in any case, things could not be, um, could definitely go in a way that we don't want them to go.
Absolutely. Well, Brad, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it, and your being your voice, and
Thank you so much. Yeah.
yep, for year two for
I
454.
will. I will. I
Yep.
will. And then just, she's been an inspiration to me. Jessica's been one of our biggest fans since day one, and her family, I've got to know them personally, and I can't thank you enough for now incorporating me with with missing people in America. So now they've gained another warrior because I think it's something that once again, if you're not in that community, you're
Yes.
not in that community, and for you to combine your two loves
Oh, yes.
and have
Yep.
me here today is very special. So I appreciate you and we love you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Mhm.
much.
Yeah.